Good afternoon, and welcome to the Thursday, January 8th meeting of the Town of Penfield's Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee. I am Cynette Cavaliere, the chair, and I'm going to start the introductions of the committee with Sarah, and we're going to go counterclockwise.
Hi, I'm Sarah Waterman. I am the town staff liaison for the engineering department.
Matt Prinzing, EECC staff liaison for the planning department.
Katie Rygg, committee member.
Roy Green, committee member.
Pat Schichler, committee member.
John Bennett, committee member.
Steve Daly, committee member.
Mark Valentine, town engineer.
And John Getz, town council member liaison.
Okay, and we're very excited to have John join us as that liaison for the town board.
And I am also really excited, and what a great group. And I was joking with Katie about it. This is one I want. Not that I didn't want the other ones, but this is one I really wanted. So this is you're a great group. So thank you for your work.
It's good. It's good to feel wanted. Okay. We'll get into our agenda then. The first item is the review and approval of minutes from the December 11th meeting. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second that.
Okay, good. Is there any corrections or clarifications needed for the minutes?
I have one
Okay.
correction. I wasn't present on December 11th for the meeting. The minutes reflect that I was present and I wasn't. And consequently, I did not vote aye for anything at the meeting as well. So I would ask that they be corrected to reflect the...
Thank you for clarifying that.
Good.
We missed that.
Do you want to go over the other change?
Yeah, so we're also updating. Pat had mentioned that there was some capitalization that she wanted changed. And Cynette had mentioned she wanted one comment clarified between when Ari had brought up that Katie's comment regarding having the RTA, Regional Transportation Authority, come in and talk with us if that was going to be part of or addressed in the active transportation plan. And Cynette just wanted more clarity, but I was going to ask Ari, but she wasn't here. We decided that the language was accurate, but we may just want to follow up later when we actually have the recommendations from Colliers on the active transportation plan to see if that is one of the recommendations. Cynette also wanted to make sure that having the RTA as a potential speaker in the progress document reflected. So that has been changed. But yeah, I think other than that, that reflects all of the changes.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll call the question. Okay.
All right. For the vote, Daly?
Subject to those changes, aye.
Yes. Bennett?
Aye.
Schichler?
Aye. Aye.
Cavaliere?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Rygg?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and our next topic is our speaker, Mark Valentine. So do you have an introduction for him, Matt or Sarah?
So we previously, at another meeting, discussed possibly having a presenter on the town's municipal stormwater permit. So we, knowing there was going to be a little more time at this meeting that we could potentially fill, requested that Mark put together a presentation and talk to us. So with his presentation, I will ask that you save your questions to the end, just to make sure if he's covering it in the presentation, we don't ask them too early. And I'll let Mark start. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course. I recognize many people. I used to sit on EEAC, EECC several years ago, so a load of those that I haven't seen in a little while, and welcome to others. But thanks for having me. So I borrowed some of the presentation from the Monterey County Stormwater Coalition. I do have a lot of slides. I will go quickly through them. We'll provide you a copy of it so you can read the finer detail of it. Some of the initial stuff is just kind of background stuff for your information and more to read later on, so I won't read through it. But these are the regulations that we need to follow as the town. So we're a designated MS4. I got a slide coming up of what that is, but it started with the Clean Water Act, and then through the years, they've added, more and more regulations, more advancements that's, required what we've had to do and how, we do reporting, documentation, everything else. So MS4 comes through municipal separate storm sewer systems. Penfield is designated as well as 29 other communities within Monroe County. So we've joined a coalition of communities across the county in order to work together. As I get into it, there are 6 different measures we need to look at, different things. So using our money, using our resources, we've kind of banded together as this coalition. I do sit on the committee as an executive committee member, but us and many, within Monroe County being duly designated by the DEC, they basically pass down the requirements, regulations to us. So now we've got to go out and enforce construction site inspection. We've got to do public education. We've got to do a lot of different measures that they kind of once have done, and then they oversee us by, an audit process. And I'll kind of go through that. So again, the different permits that came out originally kind of started back in the early 2000s. And then you can see it's supposed to be every 5 years. It's kind of stretched beyond that. The next one is supposed to be in 2030. We'll see if that happens, but there are very regulated things that we follow, each and every day. And again, not looking for you to, look at all the numbers, but we'll provide you that later on. So the last kind of the phase 2 requirements, came out back in the day. You kind of did stormwater management was quantity only. Many remember you'd have ponds in front of Wegmans. They were dry detention ponds, basically a big bathtub, would just fill up during the storm and drain right back out. So that was a quantity regulation. Now they've moved more into quality as well as quantity. So now you've seen more wetlands, you've seen more ponds with permanent pools in it, giving plants an opportunity to soak up any nutrients, runoff from parking lots, sediment, time to settle out. So that's kind of the new phase 2 requirements, and then they've come up with the stormwater management plan. Some people, we call it the swamp plan. Just from the acronym, there are SWIPs, so stormwater pollution prevention plans. Those are the ones you'll see, and if they come in, they're submitted by the engineers for a new project. We've got to develop a swamp plan, which is how do we handle our program overall. So we've got 4 engineers in our department, Sarah being one of them, that look at these and go through that. We've got to come up with a program plan. If we all get run over by a bus tomorrow, let's hope not, how do they pick up that program? They pull this book off the shelf, they go to the, our data and say, here's how our program's written out, here's exactly how we do it, and our current one is on the website today. So if you want to look at our current swamp plan, we're working on our update for 2026. So that is out and available for it. So those 6 minimum control measures, and this is, again, comes from the DEC. The first is public education and outreach. Tonight is one of those opportunities, education for committee members as well as the public watching at home. Public involvement, participation, we've got that. Obviously, this committee, we have watershed committee. People come and share their feedback, and then obviously the town board and other boards to hear public's comments, concerns. The illicit discharge and detection and elimination program. So anytime we see 2 different facets of that, if we see somebody illegally dumping, something going on, we have a spot on our website you can post and say, I've seen stuff. We've had people call, and we have carpet cleaners parked over top of a catch basin. They were just basically emptying their tanks from the day. That goes to us, that goes to DEC, you get people on it immediately for it. The second part of that is us going out and looking at outfalls. Matt has been running that program for us for several years. Looking at the end of the pipe, you've got to look after a 48-hour time frame, make sure you're looking hopefully at a dry weather condition. Do we see toilet paper coming out? Toilet paper shouldn't be coming out of a storm sewer. Do we see oils? Do we see soap suds? Obviously we've got a problem, an issue, either an illicit discharge or accidental cross connect. We go out and have to do those every 5 years. We have to look at every end of pipe that we have. So Matt works on those continuously to keep up on that. Minimal control measure 4 is construction site stormwater. So that's typically when we see development. So any new development comes in, they prepare that SWIP, They show an erosion and sediment control plan. That's the stuff that, this group looks at, as well as our engineering staff. The post-construction is the design of the ponds, wetland mitigation, how are we going to manage the stormwater now that the development's there. And then the after is the pollution prevention. That's how do we manage our town facilities? How do we manage our DPW? What do we do for sweeping of roads? How do we manage our town hall? Make sure we don't, dump buckets of floor cleaner outside the door, manage, that is managed properly as well. So all of those come together in what, the stormwater management or that swamp plan is how do we, as a town manage all of those, pieces and parts together. So one of those items, starting with the first, and I'll go through each item a little bit, more in depth, is that public education outreach. And I know one of the topics you guys have looked at is identifying pollutants of concern. So we do have impaired water bodies in Penfield. We have impaired Irondequoit Bay. We've got, we call it Commission Ditch, but it's the upper end of Thomas Creek. So we've got areas in town that are impacted streams, and then we've got to look at, as the engineering department, as stuff comes in, if it's a development area, how are we handling those? How are we targeting if there's phosphorus? If there's fecal coliform, what do we need to do and look at to make sure, this new development, doesn't make it worse and hopefully, makes that better. So again, I'll go through this very quickly, but you'll get a copy of it. So these are right from the permit. So these are the pollutants or, areas of pollutants of concern that the DEC has listed we're supposed to look at. So sediment, so typically you're looking at erosion control items. Nutrients, obviously this area is high in phosphorus already. If you go buy a bag of fertilizer from Lowe's, we have zero phosphorus fertilizer sold locally. It's nitrogen only since we are high in phosphorus already. And then obviously looking at, bacteria pathogens, we do pet waste stations, pick up after your pet. We've got things out for that. Obviously, those also can come from septic systems. So that's why we look at areas of expanding sanitary sewer. Can we treat it in other areas? We don't manage septic systems internally. Locally, it goes through Monroe County Department of Health if there's new things, but I know the regulations. If there's a sewer nearby, they won't let you expand your septic system or do major repairs. If there's a sanitary sewer, they'll make you, spend the money to transfer over. Obviously, any chemicals, pesticides, limiting those, trash, debris, heavy metals from construction areas, industrial sites, and then oils and grease. I know our sewer department goes out and regularly looks at grease traps. They see it come up, in our pump stations. We've got a lot of, they call it fog, fats, oils, and grease, but we do get a lot of impacts to our pump stations. A lot of flushable wipes, which are not flushable. Your local sewer department finds them, and pretty much every day, I think we have 29 pump stations in town, and at least every day they're taking one apart to take out the fats, oils, grease, and or non-flushable wipes that, end up in the pump station. So that's an education effort that, we put out, fairly regularly. If we have an area, we'll go paper the neighborhood and say, hey, we're seeing a lot of, stuff that's going in that shouldn't, and then they, through this fire marshal's office, do the inspections of the oil separators and make sure those are in place and operating properly. So this, and again, shout out to Matt, prepared this from our public viewer. So I think all of our graphics tonight, so those here and at home watching it, this is the data that we have currently available right on our public viewer. You can pull up, toggle on the layers and whatnot. So this shows all of our different watersheds in town. The Finger Lakes kind of go southeast, Commission Ditch, Irondequoit go south into Perrington, and then head towards Irondequoit Creek. Others go west, and then the ones to the north head up. It's a little hard to see on this graphic, but the ones that are kind of in that tannish brown, the creek stream area, those are the impaired water bodies. So you've got Commission Ditch, you've got Tufa Glen, Shipbuilders Creek on the north end, and I think there's one last little piece of 4 Mile that has some impairment on it, and then obviously Irondequoit Bay is an impaired water body as well. So here's kind of a close-up, and again, off our public viewer, we can go in and turn on the different layers. So as of January 1st, the DEC got rid of all of their mapping, so the state DEC said we no longer have official maps. They still have layers and mapping of what it was, and then they've added these informational areas. So these are areas that may be wetlands. So you've got to do some additional determination, delineation to show whether they are or aren't. So that Matt's got that on. That's that purple layer. And then in the middle shows that impaired water body line. And then when you go in and click on it, so we can go click on that and go to the next level, it'll pull up. So that's clicking on that line. It pulls up right from the DEC's website. Matt's got it linked there. So it says dissolved oxygen, fecal coliform, and phosphorus are those pollutants of concern in that stream itself. So these are all tools, elements we use in our daily reviews. So we get a project in, see where it's located, use our own data to kind of go through, click on these different things, and then look at, here's the issues with it. What is their stormwater design to hopefully, lessen the impact to these things? If there's fecal coliform, what's going on in the area? Is there farms nearby? Is it a septic issue? But those are directly linked right into our GIS information. And then one of the focus items in this, so we're going into year 3 of this new permit. So each year the DEC has different tasks we need to take care of, and I've added that at the end as a little checklist showing what we've got. But one of the items they've added is focus areas into year 3 through 5. So we got to look at more of our commercial areas. They want to target commercial. They want to target industrial as areas of concern, obviously higher density, more potential for vehicles, other garbage, trash, floatables in that. So we've got to do some education. How do we target those areas? So just pulling off of our GIS, we can pull up what our zoning is, and that kind of gives us those areas we need to target and take a look at, as we work with the coalition, and then once within the town, how did we get out and educate? What did we do to bring more information to them? And again, meetings like these, meetings with Watershed and other committees when we can speak in the public and share is a good opportunity to reach out to the public and hopefully get them to be aware of these actions we're taking and hopefully help our stormwater overall. And then I just added, this is some of the stuff, I don't know if anybody's seen on Facebook, the coalition is working on different things for little videos on Facebook and different things that they can put out there just to tell people to, pick up the parks, clean up after your dog, understand that the water that runs into the catch basin by your street doesn't get treated anywhere. It most likely runs down your gutter, runs into your catch basin, goes to the end of your street, and then either into a pond or directly into a stream. We've done surveys through time, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that. They think, like your sanitary sewer, you flush your toilet, that actually goes to a treatment plant that gets treated before it gets discharged to the lake. The stormwater in your neighborhood and your street most likely is in your backyard or the creek that your kids are playing in, and I think people think that it gets treated somewhere. If they're dumping soaps or they're dumping oil, it gets cleaned up, when unfortunately it just kind of goes down to the pond at the end of the street, and that's where it ends up, and then that's when you end up with algae blooms and other stuff that can cause issues, and then people wonder why beaches are closed in the summertime and have different impacts. So number 2 is public involvement, participation. Again, complying with open meetings laws, having our swamp plan available, one for public feedback. We bring that to the Watershed Committee. That group is our sounding board for that swamp plan, sharing that with them. And then again, it's on our website for public review and response to that. We also have an annual report. So we have to report how many catch basins we inspected each year, how many outfalls did we look at, how many times did we sweep our roads, how many times did we sweep the parking lots. We've got reportables each year. We go back, how many brochures did we give out? So we count the brochures that are in the library, how many are in the town hall, how many meetings did we talk about stormwater at. So all of those we take credit for, and as well as across the coalition. So we do submit kind of our own submission, but the county sends in a submission as kind of one, but then obviously Penfield needs to stand on its own, and our program needs to stand for itself as well. Item 3 is that outfall mapping. We are currently working with an engineering firm to map all of our storm sewers. So we have a map today that shows, if you go on our website, it shows fairly closely where we have our storm sewers. Town board has supported us within the next 5 years. So by year 5, we're supposed to have all of them survey mapped. So right now we have an engineering firm out getting the rim invert pipe size, pipe type, everything. So at the end of this, we can do a model system of all of our storm sewers, sanitary sewers. So as we look at sewer capacity, we've done smaller studies in different areas, but we don't have an entire system. Our system is mapped out, some is as-built, some is rubber sheet stretched over old maps, others is handheld GPS unit accurate within 3 to 5 feet. So our system is kind of a conglomeration of all that right now. So we've got a pretty picture of what we have, but now we're working on that next level of survey grade for all of that, and then that rolls into the outfalls as well. And then within that 5-year period, we need to inspect all of our outfalls. So it's kind of a rolling basis, go out and look at it. Some years we're busy and you get 50 done. I think we have 385 somewhere-ish, 350-ish outfalls.
Yeah.
So within a 5-year period, whether you do 75 every year or 300 in 1 year, and you've just got to get through that whole thing within that 5-year time. So obviously, we talked a little about sources of illicit discharge. Obviously, sanitary wastewater, septic tanks, car wash. People cleaning their cars, laundry, as well as accidents. So part of the program. I know everybody here is familiar with Eco Park, but then we've got the hazardous waste drop-off. We partner with Webster every other year. It goes back and forth, but educating people to take your hazardous household waste to those places rather than throwing it in the trash. Take your stuff to Eco Park as you can. Wash your car on the lawn, not over a catch basin. So it's an ongoing education effort, by us as well as the county to make sure that all of that information is disseminated to the public. This is one outfall we looked at, took a picture of, and I won't name who, but somebody was, and it wasn't the town, was washing out a paint sprayer over a catch basin, and then we got calls from downstream. Why is the stream white? And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Go out there and go, yeah, the stream's white. Okay, so that's part of that illicit discharge is tracking upstream, and somebody's up at the top of the stream. It was almost a mile away washing out something, and you could see what came down. So kudos to the public for calling us to say something doesn't look right here and getting it into us, and then going out and tracking it down, and just education of people going, I don't know, I was told I had to clean this out, and they didn't quite know what and why they were doing it, but obviously the impact to the stream and with paint going down the creek or coming out of a pipe obviously is never good. So this is that pretty picture. So this is Newbury Park, just across the street from where we are. So that kind of shows all of our pipes, catch basins, locations, where all that collection system is. So if we see water discharging at an outfall come out of the pipe, that gives us, okay, we've got to kind of work our way upstream, go up to the next manhole, pop the manhole. Is it coming from the left or the right? Okay, it's coming from this way. So that gives us, our network to kind of figure out where is it coming from, where's the source, and then, limit it. It's between these houses here. We've had, homes that have unfortunately were cross-connected. When the plumber put it in, 2 4-inch pipes came out of the house. One was storm, one was sanitary. Plumber connected them to the street, and no ill will was done. But, we've had homes that have been connected for years, and their sanitary is going to the storm sewer and vice versa. So, once you figure it out, work with the sewer department, they can go out and televise, run dye tests, go in and ask people, can you flush this down your toilet? And then hopefully you see the bright green color come out in the right pipe or the right, right location. We've ended instances where it hasn't. We've switched those and, gotten stuff fixed and flow in the right direction again. And then this just shows across the county. So this is not just a Penfield thing across the county. They've got to show all their outfalls. We share our data with them. This shows all the, the pipe connections and where those discharge. I don't think the city is included in this. That's why there's a little hole in the middle. The city is also a combined sewer, so they handle theirs a little bit different. So theirs gets treated to the best extent practicable. So there's some is sanitary only. A lot of the city is combined storm and sanitary. Heavy rainfalls, unfortunately, it doesn't all get treated. Penfield is a separate system. We have storm, we have sanitary. We don't have any combined sewers within Penfield. As I said, we've got that reporting, so this is just a sample of that sheet. It says, this is the overall sheet from the county, but they say how many outfalls were mapped, how many were inspected this year, how many issues did you find? We've got to go through that every year and then denote how many outfalls or cross connects we found, how fast was it solved, what did we do to mitigate, and resolve that piece. So item number 4 is that construction site runoff control. Again, a lot of words. I won't go through all those, but that's the development of the SWIP by the engineer. What's their plan to manage erosion on their site? You're obviously clearing trees. This group, looks at the EPODs we've got, looks at the tree cover, but then how during construction do you manage that site? What's your plan? How are you going to control that? How is that done? In the engineering department, we look very closely at that. We take training classes in that to make sure that we understand the latest and greatest, and then make sure we go out and inspect the sites at a minimum of once a month. We're required. The sites are required to inspect at least once a week, and if they're over 5 acres, it's twice a week, or if they're next to an impaired water body, it's twice a week. So they send those reports back to us. We look at those, say, hey, something seems to be up, and then we'll go out ourselves and look, but we look at everything once a month from the town for an official report. Obviously, we're out more than that, driving around, taking a look at different construction sites. And then again, we've got checklists. So the state puts out checklists. As we review a SWIP, we go through and make sure everything's there. So just to make sure that, we're, not missing anything, we use these checklists, go through, check the SWIPs, make sure they're not missing anything, make sure certifications are there. There's training required by a contractor on site. Needs to have a certification, so we make sure that that's there. We go through that stuff at the pre-construction meeting. And then as the planning board, town board, whatever board gives their approvals, there's still a review process after that. We finalize before we sign off on Mylars, and then we always have a pre-construction meeting for any bigger project to make sure the contractor's sitting across from us. They understand what we require. They understand what we're going to be looking for. They understand hours of operation. They understand the expectations. Stop work orders are, can and are used if people aren't doing things properly. So we make sure that, everybody's on the same page before we get going on a construction site. Just a sample showing as they strip off the topsoil stockpiles, stream protection, going back and, reestablishing, the banks of a swale. These are not Penfield photos, but just kind of some samples of that. And then minimum control measure 5 is that post-construction stormwater. So that's okay, the site's done, it's developed, the site's stabilized, now we've got a pond. How is that, managed and maintained? Make sure the pond is built as per size, so we require an as-built. So once it's done, they have a pretty picture on the plan and say this is how big it is. We make them go out and do an as-built at the end of it. So we want topo of that pond saying it meets the size it was designed for. Get an as-built of the outfall structure. Do the pipes meet rim invert, orifice, meeting what was the design? What's that impact? Because we look at, they've got to mitigate everything from the 1-year storm up to the 100-year storm. So, and then Penfield, we have a requirement. They have to reduce that flow by 20% over what the existing conditions are. So if you look at a site today, you look at it, it's a wooded site. They've got to do an analysis of what stormwater comes off that site. Here's how much water comes off today. They've got to be able to mitigate that, and then we require a 20% reduction from that flow rate. Obviously, if it's an impervious site, more water is going to come off eventually. It's just a matter of how do you meter that out to make sure we don't flood downstream infrastructure, other pipes that are out there. This is, again, came from the county. This is, I believe, the Webster Plaza. So Holton Ridge showed what it went from a wooded, treed, scrub land area to obviously a very impervious area. So they've added ponds. They added, ponds in the middle. How did you convert from one to the other, and how do you, manage that runoff? So obviously sometimes there's significant change from one to the other. We got to make sure that, obviously it's not going back to a wooded area, but how do you mitigate that stormwater that's coming off, and, for quality as well as, for quantity. These are some of the details that come out of the standard DEC book, showing both a top view of kind of what a forebay pond comes in. Hopefully you have the sediment settles out. You can clean that out, and then the permanent pool, you can get some vegetation to grow on outside. You've got aquatic benches, so there are very specific things incorporated into that. And then the lower one, it shows those different elevations of different storm events and how the outfall structure is intended to work, the emergency spillways. And those are the things we take as-built at the end of it to make sure it was constructed as per design and, meets all of the original intent. These are the manuals, just reference one to the construction permit. So there's two different DEC permits. There's one for the town, so that's our MS4 program, which I'm going through now, and there's a separate one for construction. And then they obviously have to comply with that. We sign off that we accept their SWIP. So that comes through me. Once we've done all our reviews, then I physically sign off saying we agree with their plan for it. And then the DEC has, manuals of standard, details. There's the blue book as well, how those things are designed to make sure that, they've been vetted out, details and designs for that. Item number 5, and I don't know how I'm running on time, but just making sure to get through all of it, but I know I'm throwing a lot at you quickly. So the post-construction, again, now that we have it, we've gone around a couple of different ways. Penfield has looked at, do we put a pond on a private property? Do we have it under an HOA, or does the town own it? We've done all three. I don't think anyone's perfect. So we've got some ponds from an entire subdivision that's on one person's parcel. They're required to inspect it every 3 years by an engineer, so we send them a letter and they say, why do I have to do it? And that ended up on your lot, and you've got the pond. We've got some HOAs. Some HOAs are good. Some HOAs have gone defunct. So we're chasing them, and then we've most recently moved into, we don't want to own it, but it makes the most sense for the town to own it and manage it, so it's on town property. And then we've created special improvement districts, so the residents within that subdivision pay an additional fee for stormwater. So everybody in town pays a stormwater drainage fee. We use that money for, major projects, keeping our streams clean, maintaining our infrastructure. That individual subdivision, they pay an additional fee, so it's to maintain just that pond. So if they want it mowed twice a week, if they want a different look and aesthetic, so we try to look at how does that mitigate the cost to everybody else in town. Everybody's not paying for every new development, but that cost is paid for and incurred by, those residents living in that neighborhood. So, get just some pictures of kind of a newer style stormwater pond. It's got, an aquatic bench around the outside, has some, wildflowers, plants, vegetation. Upper right, is more of a wetland style, and then on the lower is kind of a biofilter. Could, take runoff from a street into it, would be dry in most instances, but can take runoff in a storm event. And then number 6, this is our own personal housekeeping. Again, we've got to assess our own sites every 3 years. That's called the pollution prevention, or P2. So we go out and do our own inspections of our own facilities, walk around with DPW, make sure they don't have fertilizers stored outside, make sure we don't store the batteries that come off. Where does the oil go? Do we have a contract in that? Do we have, spill bags next to the fuel island? Make sure that all of our stuff is under cover where we can be. We don't have salt piles, dumped by the catch basin. So we do our own assessment with our own crews and make sure that, they're keeping our sites maintained in accordance with, proper regulation. Again, we look at all of our, we don't have a fire and police that are ours, but, we look at all of our facilities. So all the buildings we own, all the town properties, we have a list of inventory of every town property that we own, and then make sure that, we're aware of what's going on with them and make sure those are in compliance. And then there's audits. So there's both DEC and EPA audits. We were audited by the DEC in late December, right before Christmas of 2019. So right before COVID, they came in, we had a day audit from them. It was a full day. They came in here, went through every file we have, looked at all of our documentation. In the morning, we had to, basically their issue is if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So we can say we look at the sites every month. They go, well, where is that documented? Well, we've got books here and we've got documentation that says that. Okay, good. We do this. Show us where you've documented that. So if you didn't document it, it didn't happen. So we've gotten very good at documenting all of our stuff for that. And then the afternoon was out in the field. Let's go do a site inspection. Sarah was our as our engineer at the time that was doing our site inspections. They followed Sarah around and said, okay, let's inspect the site. Let's walk through. Where's the SWIP? Let's pull it out. Let's walk the site. What are you looking for? So they want to make sure that our staff is trained as well as what they're looking at. And then finally, they walked around our DPW facility and wanted to look at our own facility area. So they picked, 2 construction sites to look at and then looked at our own property. And happy to say that we passed. We got it satisfactory, which is better than most communities have. So, but then that's education of our own staff members and, making sure everybody is on board and everybody, across our team knows what's going on and what's expected. We've not got EPA audited. I hope we don't. That's a 3-day audit, but, that's always looming out there as well. So we're always looking at, kind of what's next, and hopefully it's not coming, but we'll be ready if it does. So this, actually the top left shows our audit of the DECN, and sitting here in this room going through our documentation. This was an 80 slide, but doing how to do an outfall inspection and out in the field walking through a construction site. So they want to make sure you really know what you're doing and what's going on. And then I threw I think I've got 3 slides left. So this is that checklist for the next 5 years. This came out from DEC, so we've got to complete and submit our own NOI that had to be done in the first 45 days. That's done and completed. We've got to do water quality strategies, that's within the first 6 months. We've done that. We've got to, so this is a document from the DEC going through, and you can see MCM 1, 2, 3, and then there's years behind each one. So we've got to track through that. So we just completed year 2. We're going into year 3, and then there's items in year 3. Comprehensive system map falls into year 5, but we've been working on it already. I'll be back before the town board, asking for funding again next year for it, but we've, allocated money to it so we can be on top of that and, get ahead of it. But this is a big part of what the engineering department does every day, is keeping up with this, MS4 program and maintaining it and trying to make sure that, we stay on top of it. This was just a little informational item. So this is, and we've got access to rain gauges across the county. So the county maintains, and that little blue blob was snow the other day when I took the thing. But so basically it shows rainfall that it's coming. And then we've got 2 USGS stream gauges, one down on Allen's Creek and one on Arundequoit Creek. And then those show as the water's rising. So we track those during storm events as the storm comes in. Just earlier this fall, we had a rain event. It rained hard overnight. DPW said we ran down a panorama. We took care of everything. There was some debris. We cleaned it up. I looked at the stream gauges, was rising, and I said, no, there's more water coming. You guys better get back down there. They went back down, and then, that's when it starts coming up out of some of the catch basins. You've got Brook Hill Apartments. You've got Tops and other areas that get impacted later on. So, we were able to kind of monitor those gauges and see those levels were still rising, even though kind of the water was gone from here. Obviously, the watershed from Arundequoit Creek and others keeps coming down to us, so we use those quite often. We've got a rain gauge at the DPW that's kind of that far northeast purple dot, but we can see from other communities. So, we watch as the rain comes across the county, some of these microcells that are coming, what the impact may be. And then there's even lake gauges that, show high water levels, at the lake or wave effects from that. So, again, we kind of collaborate with the county and work with them closely to kind of share data across to make sure we're all well informed. And then we, again, this is another resource, the state DEC environmental resource mapper, and I'm sure this group has looked at that before, but this has those informational wetlands, shows the, the previously mapped wetlands, it, gets into, all the different reference layers. So there's a lot of data we use, a lot of information, we use on a daily basis to make sure we're as well informed as we can be, and, taking a close look at the SWIPs as, well as any, new application that comes in. So I think that's all I had on there. So I know I ran through a lot. I talked very fast. I know I had 20 minutes, but I wanted to kind of get in a lot of kind of what we do and what we're required to do. Questions?
Sure, I have one.
Sure.
On that Part 5, the bio runoff on the street, do we have any, the picture that you showed, do we have any of those? I see all the ponds and the
We have
retention.
bioswales in town.
We have bioswales. I don't know if we have any that's direct. I'm trying to think on this.
Where the street and the sidewalk and,
Mostly in plazas would take, that would take
Yeah, I'm trying to
off.
think which. And we do have rain gardens, we do have biofilters. I'm trying to think if we had any direct ones sheeting off
I was
of
just
a
wondering, it looks
street on
very
it.
nice and very interesting to me. I was just wondering.
They're actually very challenging, though, to maintain.
Are
So
they?
I think that's.
Okay.
The ones in town, I think, are primarily in plazas. Like,
Yeah.
I know there's definitely one
I
in
mean,
the
obviously,
Walmart
with,
plaza
between
on the north side
vegetation
of
and
town,
just
for example.
garbage debris
Yes.
is tough, and then you've got to make sure as you get
Plants are alive, you have to replace.
sediment
Okay.
coming off. I mean, they're very
Trim
challenging
them
along
so
the street.
they're not overgrown.
Especially with,
Okay.
with salt. Salt
Sure.
obviously kills a lot of vegetation, and then a lot of the sediment that runs off the street. Now you've kind of taken away some of your infiltration.
Oh, I understand. I was just wondering if
Yeah,
there
that's
was
what I'm
any,
trying to
because I
think if we
hadn't seen that.
Had any
so.
particular for that?
I think the one that would be closest to a street is off of Panorama, what's that neighborhood, that business complex, Parker Hill? No.
Oh, Lefroy's piece.
Yeah, they have one that takes them off of one of their streets.
Yeah, that's right in front of Cynette, I think is the.
Yeah, because we had to work with
So
them
kind of
for
where
a process of
Popeyes
cleaning it
is,
at
if you know where
one point.
Popeyes is on Panorama, the new street that goes up behind that, up the hill. I think Cynette's the new business on the left, and they kind of runs off their parking lot and into an infiltration basin.
They've got one something
Yeah.
like that.
So I know one of the questions I had was periodically Sarah has talked about grant money, and is it some of the grant money that's being used for the mapping?
It is, yep. So we got a CFA grant last year for $67,500. So we applied that, plus the money that the town board allocated through our budget, to do the mapping. We applied again this year. We haven't heard yet if we've gotten more money for it. But obviously, we've got, I know we have greater than 4,000 catch basins. That doesn't count manholes, sanitary. And I unfortunately know that number because there's a new requirement in the permit that we've got to look at all of our catch basins, do an inventory of all of them, and then do inspections on them. So every community, that's kind of one of the biggest things we're looking at and may struggle with going forward, is looking at all of our catch basins and then doing maintenance on them, whether you got to flush them out. It's especially the ones that have a deeper sump in them. So most of ours have a lesser sump. It was older, you used to have more of a sump in it. New style doesn't have as much. There's pluses and minuses to both. Obviously, the sump's there to collect kind of debris off the street, and then you got to
For-
factor it out. But
For
obviously to maintain.
clarification, the sump is the space below where the pipes flow.
Okay.
thank you.
I was wondering.
Thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
So yeah, Matt's pulled up. So that's Cynette, and then this is kind of, again, they've got a little depressed area off the side. It's hard to see, but the water comes in on the right. And then it has a kind of a flow path. So if it's a large storm event, it would come in and then flow out. There's a kind of a sinuous, it runs to the back and then comes forward, before the outlet to give it more, time for infiltration and, any sediment deposit.
Are there more questions?
I have a question. How often do you have to take tests or like for BOD or metals or any of those pollutants that you have to monitor?
Currently, only if it's suspect. So that is something I believe that is coming. Right now, we go out and do our dry weather flows, look at it. Hopefully, there's no water coming out of it. Sometimes, obviously, we all have sump pumps. Your sump pump may run even on a non-rainy day. Some people's run 365. There's sump pumps, so you will have some water. So right now, currently, we only have to test if we see something and there's an issue. Most often, when we see something that's toilet paper or something else, we track it down and eliminate it, and then it's gone away. I foresee that coming in future ones, that we actually have to do sample testing. There are some test kits that the county is developing, kind of some basic pool test kits. You can at least see if it's chlorine, see if it's phosphorus, see if there's basic elements to it. If that doesn't identify it, then you'd have to do a grab sample and send it off to a lab and see if there's something more in it. But right now we don't do water testing of our outfalls.
Okay.
If it's suspect, we do have the option to have the county come out and do some testing.
Yeah, that's what I said, yeah. If we look and say something's really going on here, then, we can do samples and have sent stuff off to the county before, but the first is to kind of track back, see what it is, and you see soap suds or something, and somebody added a laundry in the basement, or, just add a little cheater pipe into their storm sewer, thought that was the closest one, and then just find out, the plumber tied into the wrong pipe, and, if we can eliminate it out of that, is usually the case.
I had one more question, because you mentioned that the public can review the plan and some of, like, your part of your annual review process.
Yep.
How do we find that on?
It should be under our drainage section on the website. So our swamp plan is up there from last year, and then our annual report gets posted every year. I think it's required to be up for 30 days by DEC. We've just typically left it up until the next calendar year and then swapped it back out. If it's not easily searchable, we can
Thanks, Matt.
share it.
I have two more quick ones when you're done.
Sure.
So you said we passed the audit. Do they give advisement or suggestions, though, within that way you've passed, but maybe
Yep.
this is a good idea?
They sent us a letter saying, here's the things you need to work on. One was the certification of our stormwater laws, and we recently just did that. So that was something we had to wrap up, countywide, but they gave us a letter back saying, here's stuff that you need to work on. We provided a response back saying, yep, we're working on these items. But yeah, we've completed that piece, and then we'll wait until our name gets pulled again, hopefully not too soon, but.
It was actually 2021 we were audited.
Was it? Okay, thank you.
And the last thing is, if you notice a storm drain, like along, or I'm assuming it's some kind of a sewer drain along the street that's almost totally covered over with vegetation that you could barely tell that it's, I'm assuming that's probably not a good thing. So who are we reporting to the town?
I mean, you can, report to either engineering department. That would go to the DPW.
engineering?
That's
Okay.
if you see vegetation growing out of it, catch basin full of leaves, you can send it to the DPW. That's something they can get out and, maintain. Our sewer crews are out, they flush the sanitaries, but they're also out flushing the storm sewers to make sure that those are obviously functioning
I
properly.
mean, I didn't know if it was a homeowner, responsible to keep it clear, go out and weed it, or, it just looks like vegetation growing.
We appreciate it. I've got a catch basin by my mailbox. I go out, I make sure I rake it off, clear the snow off of it. These, we just had, snow covers it, and also you get rain on snow events. Those are kind of a lot of the nuisance drainage complaints. People see the streets flooding. If people can go out, similar to clean around your fire hydrant. If you want to adopt a catch basin in front of your house and clear it off, obviously that helps everybody. It's officially the town's responsibility, but I think if everybody can kind of do a little bit,
But there's a link.
that helps.
So if you want to
the link.
report,
Where?
then you can go to that drainage page that Matt showed us just before, and as you scroll down, he's showing you where you can click to do a service request.
Okay.
And anybody can do that service request.
Thanks.
Can I jump in with a, I think I actually have two questions. So one of them, you touched on the situations where subdivisions developed and the subdivision developer presumably dedicates the retention pond to the town. Is that a case-by-case evaluation, or is that
It is.
now like policy to dedicate it to town?
If it's an HOA or, if it's Wegmans Pond, we don't take ownership. Wegmans owns it. It's, so any commercial development, that's theirs. If it's been residential, it's been policy as of late to take it. So one, we've wanted to locate it closer to the road. In the past, we kind of put stormwater ponds in the backyards, which is great. You don't see it, but in a storm event, you don't see it, and it's not easy to get to. So we've tried to move ponds closer to the road. One, it's an easy drive-by. We've got a rainy day event. We're all out in the car just driving, looking, making sure there's not issues, the same as DPW. If it's an HOA, that's case by case. We've tried, at least in the last 10 years, not to put on an individual property. If you're a one-house, it's your pond, one-house development, it's yours. If it's become more than that, then, we've tried to, take it. The land is then dedicated to the town. We own the town, we own the pond, then we've got the opportunity to go in and clean it, maintain it as needed, and then we create that special improvement district, and then that's, filed as part of the paperwork with the subdivision development.
And then For your information, the towns do not maintain our ponds for beauty. We maintain them to function properly. So we will not always go in and plant the prettiest plants, but we will make sure that they work.
We've had calls from people saying, I've paid a premium because I've got waterfront lot. So developers have charged them extra to be on the pond lot, and when it's brand new, it may look pretty. Over time, there's algae and there's other stuff that goes with it, and, we maintain functionality, as Sarah said. We don't put fountains in them. We have had residents petition the town board to go in and put a fountain in, but it's been at their cost. They've done a hold harmless agreement, but we don't do bubblers, we don't do fountains, we don't do other stuff. We just need to make sure that it functions properly. It may not always look pretty.
Got it. I also have a compliance question. Hypothetically, let's imagine there's a homeowner who lives next to a creek, and they have a roof, and they have a downspout from their roof, and they're essentially channeling their stormwater from the roof of their house down their downspouts, then through a pipe, that then's directed to the creek. That seems like you shouldn't be able to do that. But I'm curious because I've seen this from time to time in town, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, hopefully the water coming off the roof would be clean.
Right. I
So
guess that's the question. I'm an environmental lawyer, so that's what I think of. Is are you adding a pollutant?
Yeah, off of the roof, we would typically consider that clean water, so it wouldn't be a violation. If you had a directing off your parking lot or directing off something else, we would hope that there's some treatment and mitigation in between that. And then I know we've got a regulation, I think it's 10 feet. You're supposed to discharge on your property, so we've had people extend their downspouts to their neighbor's property line, which, of course, the water comes down, runs into the neighbor's yard, and then out. So we've put a requirement, it's got to be 10 feet from your property lines. Hopefully, the water percolates in on your property, or at least, follows the common swale in between. But again, case by case, if we saw it, went out there, and there was, an issue, it was causing erosion, if there was something else, but if it, typically we look at our roof as, hopefully it's just clean rainwater, and it's going back to the creek. I don't think we'd say that was a violation, but
Got it.
not every case obviously is exactly the
Yeah,
same.
it's purely hypothetical. So.
Yeah.
Any feel for what percentage of homeowners have plumbed downspouts versus ones that release at ground level?
It depends. So the trend, we kind of went from people used to have cisterns and rain barrels and collected stormwater to 90s, 2000s. It was get it off your property as quick as possible. So most people plumbed it and then dump it to the pond down the street. And then I think we kind of figured out now we lost some groundwater recharge. We lost some, opportunities for infiltration. So now we're moving back more towards, our code says, go to splash block unless you're a smaller lot. So if you've got more dense development, I know that creates drainage issues, then it, goes to the storm sewer. We still have a requirement that your sump pump, if there's a pipe available, still has to go to the storm sewer. That's the biggest nuisance one we get is if it rains, everybody understands it rains, there's water on lawns, there's a puddle. The sump pumps that run 365, no matter what day of the year, and creates a nuisance issue, those are our typical biggest complaints. We still require sump pumps, and that would be clean water, would go straight to the storm sewer where, now we've gotten back to more, discharge to splash block and try to get more infiltration again.
Okay, thank you.
I had a compliance question myself. Say, for example, you have to go and inspect a certain stormwater pond every 3 years, or at least, say, for example, if it's on a private residence, and they just flat out refuse to do it. Is it more of a moral obligation or a legal obligation, and when, at what point are you guys allowed to step in?
That's a good question, and we've got several that are pending, and that may loop the town board back in. So we always try to have an inspection easement over it, so at least it gives us the legal right to get into the property to inspect it. We have some that the residents don't want to do anything with it. They've gotten overgrown. We've kind of trended most recently into as long as it's still functional. We've kind of let it go. When it gets to the point where it's no longer functional and it starts to impact other residents, then we've got to look at, do we give them a violation notice or, how do we escalate it from there? But that's something we loop the town attorney in and obviously the town board on how do we handle those. So that's why we've kind of opted more for let us own it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's charge the special improvement fees, then we've got control over it. We can maintain it if it needs to be, it's on our land, so.
that inspection requirement for the ponds is within the last 10 years, right?
Yeah, I think it came out in, it's every pond since 2008.
Okay.
So anything that's pre-2008 doesn't have to be inspected. Everything post-2008 needs to be inspected. Obviously, they still need to function, so we still, kind of keep eyes on all of them just to make sure they're still functional, not impacting the neighbors.
Is there a general cost that is involved with that? Dependent, of course, size dependent, but is
With
there
the maintenance,
Right.
everybody in town pays, I think it's $20 per unit, and they assign it. So we use that money as the overall maintenance. We look at, if we have to maintain a pond, we're not maintaining every pond every year or every stream. So anytime we do stream maintenance, so we kind of just try to spread it around and go around with it. So we do have a budget every year for the drainage fund. So we kind of just spend up to that amount and then kind of go around. So I guess I don't have an individual how much each pond takes to maintain, but we do have a map that tracks all of our streams. When's the last time we cleaned them or maintained them? We've been trying to be on a 15 to 20 year cycle to at least get around to see all of them. And then we try to get in and mow around them as well, just so we have access. So like Commission Ditch, to get in and maintain a stream, it typically takes us a year, 2 years to get a permit from the DEC to get in to maintain a stream. So if we keep a mowed strip along the edge and a tree falls, we're having a conversation about a tree, and with the emerald ash borer, they're all starting to fall now. We've seen a lot of ash trees that are just, falling over. If we can track in a quick piece of equipment, pluck that out of there before it becomes a blockage, that's been much easier for us to maintain than kind of let it grow back up and the suckers grow up, and then we got to get a permit to kind of bushwhack our way back in again. It's become much more challenging.
And is typically for a retention pond, to the extent you have to perform like real maintenance, is that typically involve like dredging? Like what are you doing to it?
We try not to. So we use on areas these muck-away pucks. So there's an enzyme bacteria that helps eat the organics in the bottom. So we work with our parks department. They throw them into certain ponds. As long as we can kind of keep that muck on the bottom down. We have dredged them. We dredged Glenbrook Pond. It's at least been 20 years. That cost us $350,000, and I don't know how great a job it did. So that used up our entire drainage budget for 1 year, hauling muck and sediment out, and I don't know what it did. So we've tried other methods of, cleaning out the forebay areas. That's why the forebays are on there. If we can dredge those out, that's so much easier than trying to dredge a big pond and then using those muck-away pucks to hopefully eat up some of the organics. We've tried to be more proactive on that end than trying to dredge them out. That being said, Pennicott Pond is scheduled to be dredged out. That's an older pond. That's kind of on the west side of 5 Mile. That's scheduled to be dredged out come April. So don't say it doesn't happen, but that's kind of the last case to get in to do that, or last chance. But again, that took us 3 years to get permits for that. It has Phragmites in there. Obviously, that's an invasive species. We got to look at how do we handle that, treatment of that, and then where does the dredged material go, access. So it's quite an involved process.
Looking at the time, I'll ask if there's any last-minute questions. Seeing none, I will thank Mark for coming and presenting to us. We will follow up by providing the slideshow to the committee members, and I'll offer Mark, you can head out when you're ready.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Mark.
committee.
Thank you, very appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. Obviously, we were enthralled with it, right?
A lot of good information.
Yes, it's a question.
So we'll continue on with the agenda then.
Okay, we'll make it easy here. I have no standing report for the Monroe County EMC. Our last meeting, Madison Quinn did an update on the Monroe County Resiliency Plan, but I'm going to go ahead and wait for the actual minutes to come out so that my notes jive with the official ones, and then you guys will get that whole download. Our next meeting is on the 21st, and we are co-meeting with the Recycling Advisory Committee. That's an annual meeting that the Monroe County EMC has. So that's very exciting for us. Are there any review of required items? Are there any town development projects?
None at this time.
Okay. Are there any requests from the town board?
None at this time.
Okay. Any updates on clean energy community actions?
Just a reminder that we are currently in an interim period with the previous program opportunity notice having expired and awaiting the new one, which is expected and hopefully will come out the end of the second quarter of this year.
Hopefully. Okay. Clearing the review of required items, we'll go into old business, and our first topic is the 2026 Arbor Day celebration.
Yeah, so we did place the order for our giveaway plants. We ordered 100 red oak saplings and 100 white flowering dogwood saplings. The pickup dates for that is going to be April 23rd and 24th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Typically, we've had town staff go and get them. We can work with, I know John and Katie, you had volunteered to kind of help orchestrate the, and it's still, we still need to determine the actual date, which would require or necessitate whether or not we would have that planting them temporarily in the yogurt containers.
I love the fostering. They're going to
The fostering.
Yeah, we'll call them
the word.
fostering.
Yes,
That's great.
fostering them. So if we do have the Arbor Day celebration EV car show on May 2nd, then we would foster them and all that.
If it ends up being on the 25th, we would not need to foster them.
Right, exactly. So in that case, we would do it how we normally do. Staff would pick them up, get them bagged, and have them available at the community center. But if not, we may, obviously we could get them for you, and then they would be available at Town Hall or the community center for you and John to pick up, and then we can kind of start, as we get closer, and if we find out that the fostering is necessary, we can start talking about what supplies you'd need as far as soil and how many, or then we need to determine what size of container is the minimum, because yogurt comes in all shape and sizes. Maybe not shapes, but sizes. So a minimum container size, what soil would be preferable, if there's one that would be better for the dogwood as opposed to the red oak, things like that. I brought along, we had these stands at the table last year that showed all of our handouts for the New York State DEC 25 million tree initiative for planting 25 million trees by 2030. So residents can log their trees onto the tree tracker tool. The mulch donut little sticker there. There's some Arbor Day postcards, a little handout about invasives in Monroe County, and then the top sheet there is what we had for the red maple last year, but we'll make new sheets for red oak and the flowering dogwood. And we'll continue to find other materials that would be appropriate for this. But if you find any in passing, or if you see something, or you're at some event leading up to ours and you see that some organization has some nice pamphlets that you think would be good to have, then yeah, let me know and we'll get in contact with them and see if we can get copies of it. Yes, Pat.
Oh, what type of oak did you say you ordered?
Red oak.
You did order the red,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, in my experience, the red oak doesn't fit in the yogurt containers. We would
Okay.
need
They don't?
to get, yeah.
They're longer.
huge.
They're-
Yeah.
When are we likely to know what date will be, as you said, if it's the
We're
20th?
hoping by the end of this month and February at the latest.
Okay, because, it'll take
For the
people
final-
time.
For the
people-
date.
Right, no,
For the
I-
EV show and Arbor Day celebration.
Yeah,
'Cause
Robbie
we'll-
hasn't confirmed, he has confirmed with the community center that it's available, but needs to finalize with National still, but he's very optimistic, like 98%
Yeah. So
sure.
that's what I'm saying. Hopefully by the end of January, we know for sure, but they just need approval from someone other than us.
Yeah.
So Penfield's good, but we need the higher up approval for the EV show.
So we might need to end up collecting milk cartons or something that are taller or something like that.
Well, planters.
And
Pat suggested looking on Buy Nothing.
Right,
and
well,
asking people.
I can put a call out to Buy Nothing. I can have a group that meets at our church where it has collected things for me in the past. I just need to know what and if we definitely need it, so.
Yeah, and maybe Megan, with her classes, can ask attendees who might have pots in their garages or basements.
But, so
So
what,
we need
what
to know what
size?
size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Megan-
size,
Megan
what
can
size was
probably
too
help with
small
that,
last
though,
year?
too.
yeah,
Maybe a gallon, I think.
would be the proper size or would be too small?
Okay.
No, that would be.
So gallon jugs, would you want gallon jugs and yogurt containers so that you'd be doing the gallon jugs for the red oak and then the, is it quart or pint size yogurt containers?
Quart, bigger.
I don't get yogurt like that, sorry.
Yeah, just let me, just let me know, because I don't want to ask them to collect if, because otherwise they give me this stuff and now I've got it all, so.
I understand, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I have gotten dogwood to know exactly how large those are. So I'm not 100% sure on that one.
But if we get all large containers.
Then it
that
would be fine.
Yeah.
Then I
It's
would
just a lot more
say-
dirt.
Well, but you put less dirt in it, right?
Soil.
Yeah.
Yeah, soil.
Yeah.
Not dirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends how deep the root
Yeah.
is, you know.
So then I would say that we'll be asking for gallon-sized containers, whether it's milk jugs or whatever else that people care to donate. And then as it gets closer, if it's necessary, we'll look at the cost of purchasing anything. But we would like to recycle first, or reuse. Yeah. So, committee members, if you can reach out to your groups in whatever manner and ask for those things. If you need to store them, we will put them under my desk.
So we only need 200?
I've got a big table in my office, it's fine.
You only need 200, you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
200,
Okay, but
please.
it's still not clear
minimum.
whether we
No, we
actually
don't know.
need them.
Correct,
Okay, so
correct.
I'm
Yeah.
just,
Right,
I know
yes.
what we need.
How about next
Yeah.
meeting, we'll
Yeah.
revisit it?
I know what
Does
we
that sound-
need now, I just don't want to, I won't put the cost
Yes.
And
yet.
Yes.
if we have a date before next meeting officially, then we can let you know.
Sure.
So that we can start as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think gabled milk cartons also, we've used those in the past, though, because of.
What's that?
A gabled milk carton, because of the
Gabled.
height. You know,
The cartons,
Yeah.
milk cartons.
when you
Yeah.
open them
Yeah,
up,
regular-
they're,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like the paper
they're nice
cartons,
height.
yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
They'll take up less real estate as well.
They do, they would stack nicely.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, so
that's
that'll
true.
be, we just need to know what
Okay.
size is the root length. that we're
Great, so
gonna
once we
expect.
have a date, we'll let the committee members know whether it's before or at the next meeting.
The other item that is delayed because we don't know the date yet is ordering the yard signs for advertising. So once we have that, then we'll use the same design with a QR code that brings us to the Arbor Day celebration page. But yeah, so hopefully by next meeting, we've got a lot more details and a date.
I don't feel that we're behind schedule at all, though, so
No.
I think we're in good shape.
No,
so.
yeah. The biggest thing is getting what we ordered, right? So that's why we wanted to put that survey out sooner than later and.
And they have been ordered.
Yep.
Yes, they have, yes.
And if, as residents, you are looking to get any plantings or seed mixes for your own property, both here and as general public, feel free to participate in this program. It's great for everybody, but if you want something specific, get your order in as soon as possible.
Okay, good. Our next item is on the Climate Action Plan.
We are working on scheduling our first meeting with Colliers. Staff are scheduling the first staff meeting with Colliers and gathering documents based for our greenhouse gas inventory.
Okay. Next item is the mayor's Monarch Pledge.
Yep. So Matt is pulling up the letter that we sent out to the committee members. It's a draft letter of support that would ideally go to the town board with this committee's approval. The letter recommends the town continue to take this pledge again in 2026.
So it's a recommendation from us to the town.
To the town board.
Okay, town board, correct.
And the reason it's in that format is because technically the town supervisor is the one that takes the pledge. officially.
That's why it's called the Mayor's Monarch Pledge.
Yep.
Yes.
So did anyone have any comments on the letter at this point? This is similar, very similar to the letter that was submitted last year.
Would it be,
Go ahead.
I know this is late, but, I mean, is it worth just putting in one sentence about why we think it's a good thing? I mean, there's nothing there that says why it's a positive. I mean, maybe it's clear, but
I think what I could do is take language from our past proclamation, because that very clearly states why the town is interested in taking the pledge. So if that sounds sufficient of borrowing language that we've used in the past, then I understand why. Like you said, it's really just saying, this current letter really just says, we've done this in the past, please do it again.
Mhm.
And so if we add in a sentence that more clearly says, in the past, we have done this because it benefits pollinators, pollinators benefit our community by pollinating the plants that create our food and things like that. So,
Yeah, I mean, your letter, your letter does mention, is an advisory committee on sustainability matters, but it doesn't elaborate.
It just says why us,
Oh,
not.
yes,
not-
yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it doesn't elaborate, so I like your suggestion of putting more information in.
Then with the addition of that language that we've discussed, could we do a vote to see if the committee's supportive so that this can go to the town board between now and the next meeting?
Do we want a motion? Okay, I move that we put this letter, finalize this letter, including the recommendation to take language that explains why this is important.
I'll second it.
Great.
for the vote, Daly,
Aye.
Bennett,
Aye.
Schichler,
Aye.
Cavaliere,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Rygg.
Aye.
Thank you. So we will update that language and send it on to the town board so that they can have it ideally before their next work session. So they'll be able to discuss it before the legislative meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you for putting that together as well. Okay. Our last item of old business is the EECC progress document.
So I think the main changes that we've had since the last meeting is that all of the comments that you added to it have now been integrated. So for instance, native plants at all town/public facing facilities, all the way down to cooling centers, zero waste landfill, water and soil contaminants, they all now have their own pages. So this last one here, water and soil contaminants, I just added in that we just had Mark come in, and I'll have links to the swamp plan and his presentation added to it after this meeting. But now we can start tracking any answers or comments on these particular topics throughout the year. And just want to add that all of you have access to edit this. If you don't, please let me know. So if you have any other questions, you can just type them right in and document that, and then we can add them into discussions or bring in a speaker to address those questions, things like that. And the other items for the website. So last meeting, we were discussing the Sustainability at Work page. There were a few items that historically we wanted to add in, that because we were looking at just those years from 2021 to 2025, but there were some comments of adding in when the Conservation Board was created and when EEAC was created. We had just when the two those two parties were merged, but adding things like that. But we're hoping that we can get a more full draft that would have just not only the 21 to 2025, but also all of the, from 1980 on, and then also kind of fill in with those links to certain topics or external pages that would be helpful to provide some context to the actions that the town has taken. We don't have that draft finalized yet, but perhaps by the next meeting, we would have something to share with the rest of the committee.
And we'll continue to ask that if you have any pertinent images that you think would be beneficial, to keep it from being just a really, really long page of words. That would be much appreciated if you would share them. And that can range from solar panels on your roof or in your yard to pollinator gardens and all kinds of things in between.
Well, I know that like when we had our, when we got Tree City USA certified, like we took a picture with the flag in front of the plaque. We can use that picture, things like that throughout our times here.
Yep.
We actually took a picture of our whole committee.
Yes. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be fun to have on there.
I have to follow up with that too, because I think what we were looking at, maybe we had it for this last Arbor Day celebration. Did we have a Town of Penfield
Tree tablecloth? No.
Well, yeah,
I think
we
it-
got one though.
I think she got it shortly thereafter.
There was
because-
one purchased after, I think.
Right,
Yes.
when we were doing all the active transportation, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to make a note for
We're
that.
very excited about that.
Yeah.
And to have a Town of Penfield tent if we get to be outside this year.
Right,
With good anchors.
yes.
I mean, on pavement, it's a little hard, maybe buckets.
Yeah, something like that,
Cement.
yeah.
Interesting.
Right, Pat?
Yes.
All of the above.
Okay.
Oh, and the Arbor Day deadlines were updated in the progress document too.
Oh, good. In terms of,
In
when
terms
the
of like what
reports
we
are due?
ordered and that orders
Oh,
are due on the
those, okay.
6th, when the pickup is, things like that.
Okay.
And at this point, that's more informational.
Right.
Can I go back to the order for the Arbor Day? So you purchased a small, I'm trying to remember from the different packages, was that one of the smaller priced packages?
It was the middle price
Yeah.
package.
The middle price, so
Yep.
that would leave some money for, you were talking about putting together a handout or something for native.
There is money in our budget for environmental awareness to potentially put together a brochure on native plants. That's what we discussed.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like the native plant list doesn't really lend itself to a print copy.
Okay.
Because it links you to all these resources
Sure.
online. So just printing it and putting into, Lowe's or some, it is not that helpful. It is a great digital resource, but it's not. So we'd have to take some more time to kind of figure out a way to modify it so that it's a better print source.
So but the money that you said, okay, well, it's a lower middle cost package to leave some extra money to work on this. Is that for the staff costs to work on it, if you're not, okay?
It would be a printing cost.
Oh, you are, okay, so
It
you're just
also-
looking at it different.
It also leaves room in our budget for if at any of the pollinator gardens in town, we want to put in an educational sign
Yeah.
that is more than just Town of Penfield, Healthy Yards Monroe, put in this garden. It would be something more along the lines of what's at the rain garden by the DPW that tells you what plantings are there, and it just gives you information
Okay.
about those and the pollinators. So it's something you'd more likely see on the side of a highway, like at the
Sure,
rest stops or that kind of thing.
like a history plaque.
So it leaves room, by purchasing the lower cost plantings, it gives a little more room in our budget to do more this year.
Oh, no, I'm in agreement with
Yeah.
that. I just figured we didn't specifically mention that when you presented that to us about these different options and, saving some of the money for these other possibilities. We didn't talk about it today,
No, thank you for bringing it up.
that we had done that. And so should this be a future agenda item, or is this just something you're going to, plan on working on? What can we do? That sort of thing.
I think we should talk offline and figure out how we want to distribute the work and what the first step focus will be.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Not
And
that
then
I'm
we
looking
would be able
for
to share more
more work,
information
but-
later.
And just
Okay.
as a reminder, in addition to the trees that we're giving away, what is the current plan for tree planting?
We're planting 6 trees at Sherwood Fields this year. It's 3 different kinds.
Okay.
And I can't remember off the top of my head. We're also planting 6 trees at Rothfuss, but that's separate from the Arbor Day planting.
Okay.
So it'll be a different time this year, as well as the Parks Department will likely plant some other trees too in other locations.
Okay.
Can we sponsor a tree as the committee, just volunteer to chip in to put a tree in a place as well?
That's a great question that I can look into the answer for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
As in,
that'd be
like,
nice.
You
take
mean-
the funds out of the EECC budget to?
No.
No, I think he
Oh.
means personally.
Personally.
Yeah.
That's
The
why I don't
committee-
have an answer yet.
Right.
But like sponsor a tree that we put in wherever.
I don't believe individual residents have been able to donate money to the town to plant trees at this point. I know that the Frisbee Golf Club has at Shadow Pines, specifically to plant more trees on the Frisbee golf courses. So I'll have to look into it.
So this would be our group, not so much individual residents, but as our group.
As a group,
It
but
would
us
be-
personally paying.
Yes, I get that. I'm just saying that might lend itself, if you're saying the Frisbee group was able to do that, we'd be a group, not
I am
hopefully.
happy to look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And just for clarification, it's disc golf, just before they.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
golf.
Thank you.
Disc golf.
Disc golf
Frisbee
is what I
golf.
mean.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
They're all
okay.
cringing. Anybody watching this is cringing on you. So
Something
disc
I obviously don't play. Sorry.
You need to, because it's a lot of fun. Okay. Is there any other old business that we had to cover?
Not at this time.
Okay, so new business, we'll do our upcoming events.
Yeah, so we had an additional one that we wanted to highlight. So we have an opportunity to recycle your Christmas tree, non-artificial Christmas trees, that is, at Penfield DPW. You can bring your natural trees to DPW on, what's the date?
It's it's any day until Saturday, January 10th.
So this Saturday.
Technically, it's
till
actually the 17th.
17th.
That you're allowed to drop
Following
them
week,
off
yes.
until. The 10th is when the first
Oh.
pickup is, and
Right.
if it was rained out, then the second pickup will be on the 17th. That doesn't make sense.
There's only one pickup.
The
It'll
alternative
be-
pickup
yes.
will be on the 17th. I apologize. So residents are allowed to drop off their trees at the DPW near the sign that says Xmas tree.
Sign.
You-
Xmas trees, yeah.
Yes, Xmas trees. Then, separate from that, the community groups, Color Penfield Green and the Rotary, are offering to pick up trees from your curb. There is specifically a sign-up, which will help facilitate them picking up your tree and make it very much more likely they will pick up your tree, that you can sign up and have them pick up your tree rather than you delivering it yourself. This is not sponsored by the town. We're not paying for them to pick up your trees. It's not coming out of your tax dollars. These are people volunteering to pick up your trees. And that pickup is ideally January 10th, and if it snowed or rained out, it would be January 17th.
Okay.
I would just add that, the town will then mulch the tree.
Yes,
And
thank
then
you.
free mulch available to residents in the spring, which is amazing. And we've already had 145 people sign up for this.
Great.
Incredible.
So, and I've asked Sarah to look into how to get numbers for what other trees are collected.
So we're hoping to get numbers from your group of how many are collected, and then separately see if we can get numbers from the DPW of how many they receive.
And as a reminder, if you do have an artificial tree, Eco Park does accept those. So please divert them that way and not into the landfill.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the other events, this Saturday, and then the Saturday following on the 17th, the Art of Native Seed Sowing. You can register for this class on the Penfield Recreation website. That class is from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., again, both on the January 10th and the 17th. There is a fee associated with that class, but there's a $5 fee just for the materials for doing the planting. And that's at the Penfield Community Center. And then later this month, green home upgrades, can they pay for themselves now? And that, yeah, January 27th at 7 p.m. at the Community Center. Katie, you're helping lead this class, correct? Do you want to speak on it?
I do, yeah. So the federal incentives went away at the end of the last year. So the question is, can these green home energy upgrades really pay for themselves? What is the return on investment? And Al Hibner is looking into some great calculators people can use to figure out what would be the ROI for insulation, electric vehicles, heat pumps, LED lights, and heat pump water heaters. And we'll also have NYSERDA weatherization kits for folks who attend. So.
And as a reminder, signing up for these classes are required. The classes do not get to go on if there's not people signing up for them. So please sign up, please attend these classes. They're great things that are offered by community members as part of the rec.
Good. And then you actually had already covered the conservation
Yes.
tree and shrub program, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's actually, orders due. Okay. that's
Right,
just-
so
yep,
the
orders
public that wants to order trees through that program, those orders are due by March 6th.
Yes.
The pickup date is the same, April 23rd and 24th.
And again, we encourage residents that if they're looking to make orders, to put them in as soon as possible, as they do run out of some items. And if you don't get an order in, they do have a sale on the 25th of April for the remaining items.
Okay. Is there any other new business or any other coming events that we want to cover? Okay.
Given that we're also conservation, there's some really great classes that Color Penfield Green is not part of, but we're excited about. So discovering birds in the Penfield area, life cycle of the honeybee are both coming up in January, and then how to attract a large variety of pollinators to your garden in February. So it's right after this. Kevin Gorman is running these classes, and they sound like they'll be
Good
great.
catch.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So do that real quick. Which one is in January? Life cycle of a honeybee?
And the one right before it.
Okay.
And discovering birds in the Penfield area.
Good.
Thank
Sound
you,
like
Katie.
Good topics. Thanks, Katie. Okay. Any other upcoming events that we want to share? Okay. And any other new business?
Not at this time.
Okay. Our next meeting is February 12th. So we'll look forward to that. And at this time, I call the January meeting of the Town of Penfield's Energy and Environmental Conservation Committee adjourned.